Sometimes what is the big catalyst to change is the pain of staying where you're at becomes more than the pain that comes from making the change. You may deal with the discomfort of a stare. You may deal with the discomfort of a negative comment, but isn't that momentary compared to if you really are in this place of, I want to embrace what's going on. I'm done with the die. I want to save money. This is what works for me. You just sticking with it because you want to avoid the comments or the opinions is going to wind up being too exhausting. And let me know. Hello, beautiful butterflies, and welcome back to Naturally Graceful. If this is your first time, I'm Nina. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about those of you who may have decided, yes, while I'm at home, I'm going to go gray. I'm going to let these gray roots come in, and you're enjoying being at home in the comfort of your home, dealing with your gray hair. But maybe in your area, things have opened up and you have to go back to work and you're feeling nervous about revealing your gray roots to others. So in this video, I want to share some tips and some awesome quotes that you can keep in mind when you are getting ready for your reveal. It makes me think of a child's first day at school. We've all went through that, the first day, the butterflies in your stomach. Maybe you have a new backpack, new clothes or something like that, and somebody makes fun of it, or, just lots of nervousness. So I want to provide the video to give you guys some tips on how to handle that situation. So I would love for you guys to let me know, what tips do you have for those who are going back to work with their gray hair and they're really nervous? It would be really great. Remember that you guys, this is a collaborative effort, and it's not just me, but it's also you guys. I talked before in a couple of videos about why now would be an awesome time to decide to do your gray hair transition, but it's also important to give you some preparation for when you go back to work too, or when things do open up, and say you left or started the time at home with colored hair, and then you come out and people are like, whoa, what happened there? So we're going to talk about some things that can help. I love this quote from Brene Brown. She says that courage starts with showing up and letting yourself be seen. Let me know what you think about this quote. I think it's true. When you decide that you're going to not dye your hair anymore, you're pretty much saying, I'm letting my gray be seen. And this beautiful butterfly that I spoke with, she helped me to come up with the title of my thumbnail. She was like, I'm done hiding. I'm done hiding behind the color. I'm ready to just be free of that. Let me know if you guys feel the same when you started your gray hair journey. So I think this quote goes in line with that the courage comes from, not hiding anymore. So last night I was watching a video that was giving YouTube tips for people who create videos and create content for YouTube. And his name is Sean Cannell. And the title of his video was how to stop worrying about what other people think. And so I'm watching it. Mind you, this is for YouTube tips, but I said to myself, oh my goodness, this is perfect. The principles of it, the mindset principles for the gray hair journey. So he had an acronym called FOPO, FOPO, which means fear of other people's opinions. And he also is a quote lover like myself. So I thank him for these quotes that he shared. So this is the very first thing that you can do when you're thinking about going back to work, or you're thinking about maybe even seeing your family. You haven't seen them in a long time. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being positive about what can go right. I think that the courage that we need for something doesn't come from ruminating or worrying about the things that we're afraid of. I think it comes from focusing on where we get our strength. And so if you think, you know what, some people might be surprised, but it may go better than I think. So kind of leaving that open to what the experience might be instead of guaranteeing automatically that you're going to get negative responses. So you can keep this quote in mind. And remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Let me know if you guys agree with this. It is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I mean, just stopping the dye anyway is the first step in that. Let me know if you guys agree. When your roots are out, you feel exposed, you feel a bit vulnerable, and you're not used to it. Our hair has been a darker color for most of our life. So we're also trying to break those beliefs where we feel old, gray hair, white hair is synonymous with being old. So you can definitely feel like you're showing yourself by showing your roots, but you can still do it anyway. I love this quote from Lisa Nichols. She says, "Leap afraid." So that means that you're still doing an action. Your feelings might still be there, but you're still going and doing what you need to do, what works, and what's best for you. Here's the other thing that he mentioned in his video that I think applies also to the gray hair journey. Accept that you're going to get judgment. Accept that there might be some that don't like your hair. That is a real possibility. But guess what? This one kind of stung, and maybe when you guys see this next slide, it might sting a little too. But let me know if this is true. Isn't this a truth? We all judge. We do. We're not supposed to. Not all of us may be vocal with it and say it to other people, but we all have our preferences. Like, I like this type of food. I like this type of movie, this type of music. It would be realistic to think that some may not like our decision to let our gray hair grow. And sometimes our choice in doing that, maybe somebody was thinking about it and they don't want to, and you might be triggering them in some kind of way. There was another quote he mentioned, I think it was from Aristotle, that said, if you don't want to be criticized, then don't do nothing, don't say nothing, don't be anything. Then you'll be safe from any kind of criticism. And we know that that's not how we want to live. So how about letting the negative comments be a trigger to practice self-love, to practice having more loving thoughts and remembering what your truth is. So that way you're not nervous trying to avoid those comments, but okay, if somebody gives me a stare, if somebody says a sly comment, okay, I'm going to take that moment to take the attention even off them and their negative comment, but go and do what you need to do on the inside to remember your truth. And what are some truths? I like this quote from Byron Katie. She says, "It's not your job to like me, it's mine." And that quote is, of course, in a bigger sense of, the fact that some people, you may not be their cup of tea. But even when it comes to certain choices that you make, we're allowed to have our preferences and for somebody to not like those preferences. But if you like it and if it makes you feel great, then that's your truth. That's what counts. Also, something to remember that you can tell yourself when someone says something that doesn't sit right with you is that you can tolerate that discomfort. It's going to sting for a brief moment, and then you'll be able to move on. But think about this. I remember hearing a quote that said, like, when it comes to change, sometimes what is the big catalyst to change is the pain of staying where you're at becomes more than the pain that comes from making the change. I don't know if I'm saying it exactly right, but let me know if you guys agree with that. So you may deal with the discomfort of a stare. You may deal with the discomfort of a negative comment, but isn't that momentary compared to if you really are in this place of, I want to embrace what's going on. I'm done with the dye. I want to save money. This is what works for me. You just sticking with it because you want to avoid the comments or the opinions is going to wind up being too exhausting. And let me know if you guys agree with that. I know it did for me. It's like I did go through a couple of weeks of feeling insecure, but from where I'm at right now, I'm happy that I went through. It's also, you could compare it to exercising. If you're out of shape, it's going to hurt in the beginning when you're learning new exercises, muscles that hurt because you didn't even know that they were there and you're using them. But when you have that body, or that health and that stamina that you want after all that hard work, it's worth it. Another graceful truth is what others think of you is not your truth. So someone can say, I don't think you look pretty in that shade. I don't think gray is your color. You let yourself go. But is that what's true for you? Do you feel like you've let yourself go, or do you feel like you've let yourself free from having to deal with that? This is another Zig Ziglar quote where he said, don't be distracted by criticism. Remember that the only taste of success some people get is to take a bite out of you. And I thought that was an interesting quote because not everybody is like this. As we mentioned in another video about handling negative comments, some people unintentionally say things they don't mean to hurt you. And then there are others that is they're very well-intentioned to say something to get a rise out of you. So again, going back to the fact that that's not your truth. That's not your truth. So to recap what those 3 tips can be to help you to have the right mindset to prepare you for people seeing your newfound gray roots is to think of what good things can happen instead of thinking of all the worst case scenarios. That can at least help you to not approach the situation with such heightened anxiety. Remember that if you do feel scared, it doesn't mean you're not courageous. You can still leap afraid. And it takes courage to show yourself in a vulnerable place. And there is another tip. And this is what I'm doing today. And this is what that beautiful butterfly did. She reached out to somebody, she said, who could understand the struggle that she was going through. So you have your mindset to do it anyway and to think of the good things that might be able to happen. You want to accept that we all judge. So there is that possibility that you may get some stares or negative comments. You also want to surround yourself. The fastest way to build your confidence is surround yourself with those who support you. So here on the live during the week, not everybody has the advantage of having those close to them who are cheering them on their gray hair journey. So please let me know where you're at in your gray hair journey, because I love when we clap each other up, for little milestones that other people might be like, what's the big deal? We're here to support you and let you know that you're not alone. So having a support group is certainly a way to be able to help you to get through those hard times. Because look, I talked to you guys the last time about the illustration of a butterfly when it comes out of the cocoon, and how the wings are weak and they're not real strong. It needs some time to build some strength. There are times in your gray hair journey where you're feeling like that, and then soon you're soaring. You're soaring and you don't need as much as you did in the beginning, and then now you can help somebody else. So when I mentioned earlier too that there are things that you can think of that can go right as opposed to wrong, instead of focusing on the negative comments, maybe think of somebody who you might inspire just by the decision that you're making. Let me know in the comments if any of you guys have had anybody come up to you and say that, because they saw your gray hair that way, that helped them to make the same decision. When we embrace what our truth is, then we make it comfortable and we kind of give someone else that space for them to be able to do the same. I think that's what it is. Because we remember that beauty comes from that authentic place of feeling comfortable in your skin, how attractive that is. So don't let Fopo, fear of other people's opinions, stop you from holding your head up high and stretching your wings and letting people see a different side, helping them to change the narrative for them. Maybe somebody may not decide to allow their gray hair to grow, but maybe they might think differently about gray hair. And surprisingly enough, I know a lot of gray hair or silver sisters who it's helped their kids. Their kids were the ones who encouraged them to let their gray hair grow. And it helped them to be able to know that it's not just older ones who get gray hair, but also, some young ones as well. For those of you who are watching this and you're nervous about going back to work, you're nervous about people seeing your gray hair, the percentages were higher for positive than it was for negative. So it doesn't mean that you may not get the negative, but let's focus on the one that support us and remember, this is your decision. It's your truth. It's what works for you, and that can be enough. I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate your support. Any questions, video requests, if you want to show me where you're at in your gray hair journey, nina@naturallygraceful.com. I wish you a compassionate week. Remember to allow space for how you feel, forgive yourself often, and also commit to one loving thought about yourself. All right, guys.